Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another edition of Budget Magic. So, as you know, Amonkhet is officially out. We can play Amonkhet cards, Amonkhet Standard is a thing. More importantly, Felidar Guardian is banned, so Amonkhet Standard right now is a brewer's paradise. Anything is possible, all bets are on the table, who knows what will happen in this new format. So this week, we start our exploration of Amonkhet Standard with one of the decks I was most excited to try out thanks to the new set, and that is Zombies. So we are playing Mono Black Zombies in Amonkhet. One quick thing before we get to the deck. You might hear me mention in the videos the Felidar Guardian combo a couple of times. I started recording and building this deck before the emergency ban announcement, so I think there's a couple references to that. There's no actual matchup against Felidar Guardian, but I think I mentioned it a couple times throughout the video, so just be warned, I don't think the banning really changes this deck at all, except for the Trespassers curses in the sideboard, but we'll talk more about them as we go along. Anyway, a quick reminder before we get to Zombies in Amonkhet Standard. If you enjoy this deck and you enjoy Budget Magic in general, it would be amazing of you if you could take a quick second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk Zombies, and probably the easiest way to look at this deck is to look at the curve. So 1-drops, we have 8 of them in all, and they are super strong. Crypt Breaker is kind of a 1-mana planeswalker. It just does so much. So for 1 mana we get a 1/1. It lets us discard cards, and we have some nice discard synergy, like Dread Wanderer, for example. But discard cards to get 2/2 zombies, and we can tap 3 zombies to draw a card and lose a life. So it just does so much. It's a source of card advantage. It's a discard outlet. It floods the board with creatures. It's kind of a must-kill 1-drop for a lot of decks. If it just sits out on the battlefield, it's very easy for a Crypt Breaker to take over the game all by itself through card advantage and all the other stuff it does. Dread Wanderer is kind of the opposite. No real tricks here, it's a beatdown card. It keeps coming back from the graveyard, and it works super well with Crypt Breaker. As I mentioned, we can discard it, get it back, get a 2/2 zombie token along the way. But Dread Wanderer is just really hard to kill, so it's very easy for us to just keep grinding out value with this card. We have a lot of zombie lords, so it's ending up a lot bigger than a 2/1. Keep attacking, if it dies, whatever, we're just going to pay 3 and get it back again. And of course, it can block. Entering the battlefield tapped is a little annoying, but like Grave Crawlers and cards like that typically can't block, so it gives us some nice defensive upside if the game goes long, to just chump and chump and chump and stay alive, keep getting it back, maybe draining our opponent along the way with some of our zombies. So those are our 1-drops. As far as 2-drops, we have Relentless Dead, which is another great grindy zombie card. So the downside of both Dread Wanderer and Relentless Dead is Magma Spray, fairly popular, so there is an answer that gets rid of them permanently. But if our opponent doesn't have a Magma Spray, it's pretty easy for this card to just get out of control, grind out so much value. If we can leave up 2 mana when we have a Relentless Dead out, we can always get back our Relentless Dead, reanimate a Crypt Breaker with the additional mana, reanimate a Dread Wanderer, and in the late game, if we have a ton of mana, we're getting back Zombie Lords and 3-drops, and it's just very, very powerful. So it's a decent attacker because of Menace to get in some damage. Works well with our lords, ending up a 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, so just a really powerful 2-drop option. One of the weirdest slots in Zombies is the second 2-drop. Especially in Mono Black, there's not a ton of options. I think that Doom to Center is the best of them, and there are some sweet synergies with Doom to Center as we go along. So basically, it's a 1/1. It's not a zombie on its front half, which can be annoying with our lords. It doesn't immediately benefit, but when it dies, we get a 2/2 zombie. So it can block once, get a zombie out of it, and then the second creature does benefit from all of our zombie synergies. One of the sweetest plays in this deck involves our 3-drop Plague Belcher, which is a really push card. It's a 5/4 for 3. It has Menace, so it's really hard to block. It drains our opponent randomly out of the game, which makes it hard for our opponent to like wrath our board with Fumigate and negates the life gain from that, or just trading off in combat is painful because it drains the opponent. The downside is got to put 2 -1/- counters on something. When we put them on Plague Belcher and it's a 3/2, it's much less powerful, but one of the nuttiest curves in this deck is to play a Doom Dissenter on turn 2. On turn 3, we Plague Belcher, we put the counters on the Doom Dissenter, it dies, which is actually good because it comes back bigger as a zombie, benefiting from our zombie synergies, and we have a 5/4, so kind of one of the nut draws as far as being aggro with this deck is just to play Dreadwander on turn 1, Doom Dissenter turn 2, Plague Belcher turn 3, kill the Doom Dissenter, get the zombie. That leaves us with 9 power on the battlefield, along with some menace threats, some draining if our stuff dies, so we can get in some really quick damage. And it also just gives us some weird grindy value in the late game as well. We can Plague Belcher, use the counters to kill a Relentless Dead. If we have the mana up, we get back Relentless Dead, can get back another 3-drop, get back another Relentless Dead. So in the late game, there's a lot of power there with Plague Belcher as well. Our last kind of theme of the deck is the Zombie Lords. Lord of the Curse, pretty straightforward. Pumps up all of our zombies, gives them all menace. Giving them all menace isn't as great as you would think, mostly because a lot of our zombies already have menace. Not quite half of them, but a decent number already do, so double menace doesn't really do anything more than 1 menace. However, it does let us close out the game in the late game. It makes it really difficult for our opponent to block. We suddenly just hit our opponent for a ton of damage. Stacking up these Lords gives us a ton of really huge zombies. And then maybe the most surprising card in this deck, and I think one of the secrets to making zombies good is Liliana's Mastery. So when I saw this card, I thought it was a casual card, but after putting it in the deck, I realized it's actually one of the most powerful zombie cards in the format. So when you really think about it, when it enters the battlefield, you get 2/2/2 zombies, but Liliana's Mastery pumps them, so they're 3/3s, which means the first copy of Liliana's Mastery is giving you 6 power and toughness across 2 bodies for 5 mana, which isn't insane, but it's fine. The good news is we're playing this on turn 5, and when you consider we have 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, multiple things at each of those slots, by the time Liliana's Mastery comes down, it's often immediately adding 10 power and toughness to the battlefield, because we don't only get the zombies, but it pumps all our other zombies as well. So it is a massive swing in board presence. And then the second Liliana's Mastery gets even more absurd, because we have one on the battlefield. The next one's making 2 4/4 zombies, which is 8 power and toughness across 2 bodies by itself, plus pumping everything else, including the first 2 zombies. So the second Liliana's Mastery often adds 12, 14, 15 power and toughness to the battlefield for 5 mana. And that is just a really great way to close out the game. So I've been amazingly impressed with the power of Liliana's Majesty. Completely flipped my perspective on it from casual card to very, very strong in Zombie Tribal. The rest of the deck is just some removal. So Grasp of Darkness, the best early game removal spell, discounting Fatal Push, which is a bit expensive for our budget, and would be fine, but we don't have a ton of ways to trigger Revolt in the deck. Dark Salvation, just a one-of, really expensive, but if the game goes long, it can make some zombies, which benefit from all our lords and whatnot, and kill something. And then Never to Return in this deck, I think, is better than Ruinous Path, and the return part has been somewhat relevant. It's not great by any means, but it is sometimes a card that we actually cast. When you think about it, if we have nothing going on, we're empty-handed, we have nothing going on, we kill a Planeswalker or something, return is kind of just free upside. We get a 2/2 or a 3/3 or a 4/4 if we got some lords out. Exiling a card from the graveyard can be relevant in a world of scrap heap scroungers and stuff, so I think Never to Return, especially in zombies, where being a zombie token really matters, is better than Ruinous Path. And then one Midnight Oil, and this is basically just our Phyrexian Arena, essentially. Helps us go long, gives us a resilient card advantage generating engine, and make sure if we're playing a deck that's gonna get, I don't know, really grindy, kill a lot of our creatures, it's nice to have a hedge where we can draw this and keep up with Glimmer of Genius and some of the card advantage we see from control decks, because we have a lot of threats that can keep coming back from the graveyard, which allows us to go long. We can get aggro wins, but we also can win just by grinding out really long games with all these recursive threats, and Midnight Oil works really well in that situation. Mana base, 24 swamps, as simple as can be. In the sideboard, Trespasser's Curse. So this was initially in the sideboard to fight Copycat combo, but then I realized realized it can actually be pretty good against creature decks as well. Someone actually sideboarded it in against me one game, and I realized that it's actually really absurd in a aggro mirror that's based around putting a lot of creatures on the battlefield. I think when I had an opponent play this against me, they probably gained, I think I counted 15 life, and we lost 15 lives. We literally just lost to Trespasser's Curse. Because every time we played a zombie, every time a Doom Descender died, every time we activated a Crypt Breaker, we were getting drained for 1, and that life swing literally won our opponent a game. So I've been impressed with it. I don't think it's a 4 of without Felidar Guardian running around, but I'm still not opposed to maybe keeping it as a 1 or 2 of for these aggro mirrors. Scarab's Feast gets rid of graveyards, low opportunity cost because it cycles. Our control package is Transgress the Mind to get rid of Planeswalkers and Aetherworks Marvels and big threats. Another Midnight Oil for some additional grindiness. Lost Legacy for combo decks. Approach to the Second Sons, whatever weird combos people are playing. And then some more removal. Never to Return can come in against creature decks, also good against Planeswalker control decks because it's a Ruinous Path. And then Murder for some more instant speed interaction. And that is Zombies for Amonkhet Standard. And that's our Budget Magic deck for this week. So I don't know. I've been very impressed with this deck. I'm very excited for this deck. And one of the things I really like about Zombies, and I mentioned this in an article I wrote about brewing with Amonkhet, is there's a lot of different ways you can go. So I'm still really in love with mono black zombies, and I think that the tribal lowered mono black Liliana's Mastery plan is very strong, and I really like this deck. But one of the upsides is if you buy this deck, you can really customize it a lot. You can go white-black to get some of the Embalm zombies and white zombies from Amonkhet. You can go blue-black to get prized amalgams and play maybe Haunted Deads and play a more graveyard-based plan. You can go Esper, you can go red-black for more removal. So if you end up getting zombies for Amonkhet Standard, I think you start off with a pretty powerful, fairly competitive base mono-black deck, and then if a month from now you get tired of mono black, you can spend a few bucks, upgrade to another color, which will change how the deck plays. It really will have a big impact. This is very tribal, beatdown, kind of like Merfolk in Standard. That type of plan where we're going to stack up lords. We do have the grindiness of Dreadwanderers and Relentless Deads, but our primary plan is to play zombies, get them really big, kill our opponent. And you can change that by adding colors to more of a graveyard-based plan, more of a aristocrat-style plan if you go white. So there's a lot of things you can do with this deck without spending too much money on your upgrading costs. So that's the thing I really love about Zombies. Apart from just being a really fun and pretty competitive deck on its own in the mono black form, there's tons of things you can do to change up the playstyle and kind of make it feel like an entirely new deck without breaking the bank and spending a ton of money. So anyway, that's Mono Black Zombies for Amonkhet Standard. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the gameplay videos, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, take a second and click that like button down below. It's a great way to help support the channel for free. And you can find the next video in the playlist right here.